Hi, Brooke.
Hi, Noah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Raising the New Earth podcast. This week's topic is about sleep, and sleep has become a more of a controversial topic in recent years. And Brooke and I decided to do an episode about it and just clear some things and bring you some of the research that we were able to find. So, one important fact is that you can go without food for up to 70 days without dying, but don't try this at home. But if you try to go without sleep for even a week, you will notice immediate and severe side effects. And there's a guy by the name Randy Gardner who holds the world record for going the longest time without sleep. And I would like to perhaps add myself to the equation. When I was nursing, I felt like I I went months and months and months without solid sleep. So much so I was a zombie. I fell all the time. I tried not to drive too much because I felt that I was incapable of functioning properly. So even though most people get less than 6 to 7 hours a night, the World Health Organization and the National Sleep Foundation recommend 8 hours a night. So yes, we can get by with 5 hours here and there, but really few people can function optimally on less than seven. And 8 hours may seem like a lot, but doctors are beginning to sound the alarm on the national health epidemic caused by little sleep, because lack of sleep can bring about a compromised immune system, because we know that sleep strengthens the cells and fight infections and sickness. And when we become ill, that sleep reinforces the system that fights the cold and the flu. So, Brooke, what are your thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, well, in some ways when you were saying that sleep has become such a controversial issue, it's just funny to me because I do think that we take these things that on the surface it seems like it's obviously a basic, fundamental part of being human that you get proper rest, and somehow, we seem to make a controversy out of it. But I think that it goes to show just um how much we've kind of taken ourselves out of the natural world that would prepare ourselves for sleep. And it was really going through the journey of intrinsic health and understanding sleep. Sleep was part of what was our rest module. And so when you really go to kind of like looking at what sleep actually is, what's it doing, you're not just closing your eyes and nothing's happening, but in fact, that by allowing your body to rest, then you're giving it that space and that silence to really regenerate itself. So I think that when you start looking at that, it starts to become very clear of how important sleep is. And the other thing to also note on that is that quantity of sleep is one thing, but the quality of sleep that you're getting within the hours that you're sleeping is huge as well. And I think that is the other piece. It's not just that in this modern society that we're shortening that window of time, but the time that we are sleeping, how much of that are we really in that deep state of rest where we're able to regenerate ourselves and strengthen our immune system. So it becomes just that much more important. And I think the wonderful thing that I kind of took from Journey of Intrinsic Health is to really think of sleep as something that you start at the very beginning of the day, like preparing yourself to sleep, and the things that you do in the morning, from the first food that you reach for and the way that will set yourself up for your cascade of hormones that come throughout the day, and everything else that all of that is contributing to the way that you sleep at night. So I think that just reframing the way that we look at sleep is so important. And so I love that we're discussing this today.
100%. And we're going to talk about some of the things that harm our sleep in this particular era, and some of the things that we can do to avoid them.
Mm-hmm.
So, some facts about lack of sleep. Well, we already know that it harms the immune system, because sleep is one of the things that strengthens that cells that fight infection and sickness when we don't feel good. And sleep, like we said before, reinforces the system that fights any cold, any flu. And some research, some studies are showing that there's more than double, it more than doubles the risk of having cancer. Not to say that this is what causes cancer, not, but it's another factor, because what happens is the sympathetic nervous system is overactive. And when we don't have enough sleep, that could lead into inflammation. And we know that cancer causes a sustained type of inflammatory response to help to grow blood vessels that feed cancer cells. So that deprivation is also a decreased levels of one type of cancer fighting immune cells.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting and important to note, because with cancer, I don't think we really associate the immune system as being a piece of that, but a lot of research coming out now, and I follow Hope for Cancer Mexico, which is a really integrative program, and I know that the doctors there really stress the importance of the immune system, because it's not just your first line of defense against, a cold and I mean, not that that's not important too, but that any sort of dis-ease in your body, the immune system is where you want to give it that first chance to really allow your body to I don't want to say attack, which I guess it is, but to keep yourself in health and keep in well-being. So I think that, we like tend to look at all of these different crazy, and I'm not saying that there's not wonderful things we should be doing as far as supplementation and just reducing our cancer risk, but how beautiful it is that we can just go back to the basics too, and know that there's so much importance in the foundation of our, strengthening our immune system there. So yeah, I think that's super, super interesting. The other thing, or the other piece that its lack of sleep has been really linked to, is Alzheimer's disease. So that getting too little sleep across your lifespan can actually increase the chances of Alzheimer's. So again, it makes complete sense, because during deep sleep, the brain is essentially cleaning itself and flushing out contaminants, including the amyloid protein and tau, which are both associated with Alzheimer's disease. So, it's everything is linked.
Yeah, everything is linked.
Yeah. And I think with the dreams episode, that also plays into the Alzheimer's. If you go back and listen to our dreams, Heather spoke so well to how the rest is, and dreams are a way to clear out the system. So
the repair mechanism.
Yes, exactly. There you go. The repair. I couldn't remember the repair mechanism of the brain are dreams, which is so cool. Yeah.
And we also know that lack of sleep is linked to a decrease in our cells' ability to absorb glucose from the bloodstream. So basically, if you go a long time with that sleep deprivation and it becomes chronic, it is a major factor in developing type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, absolutely. The adults 45 years or older that sleep less than 6 hours a night are 200% more likely to have a heart attack or stroke than those that sleep 7 to 8 hours, which I think that's like a staggering statistic right there.
And an alarming one.
Yeah. And if you think, I mean, it makes it, I feel like now the normalcy of getting less than 8 hours is just, it's like, well, wow, you get 8 hours of sleep is a shocking, thing, when it really should be the standard. So, yeah.
And we know that with a super active sympathetic nervous system, there is an increase of the stress hormone called cortisol. And that cortisol, if we keep it high all the time, it constricts blood vessels. So, and also the growth hormone that is released during sleep is not does not suffice for it to replenish the lining of our blood vessels if we are sleeping poorly night in and night out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And then just on the mental health front, and again, and I just love making the links because again, everything is connected. But you know, the lack of sleep will contribute to problems such as depression and anxiety and decreased concentration. So, you know, it's not to point any one thing as being a factor to some of these very common and alarmingly increasing diseases of the population that we're seeing, but on the mental health aspect as well, sleep plays a role in contributing to that.
I heard that definition, a recent definition of what is being depressed is someone that needs deep rest.
Yes.
And so if we're not giving it to our body, we will seek it in some other ways. And it can come along with emotions that we don't necessarily want, such as anger, hostility, and such. So you'll notice the difference. If you have enough sleep, you almost wake up from a vacation. There's a feeling of rejuvenation as opposed to being drowsy, distracted, and yes, that anxiety and anger that comes with the lack of sleep.
Yeah. Well, and if you really think about it, I would say, just to our audience and to us as well, like if you think about when you have a really good night's sleep, like, or if you do go on vacation and you're able to rest, how good you feel and how ready you feel to tackle the world. And so it's like, it's interesting to go through this list and, these are all common things that we hear about all the time, but you never really hear them in the context of just get some sleep. But if we can back up, yes, it's so basic, but that's the point. Like it's so basic, and just know in yourself how important it is. Like, how do you feel when you get a good night's sleep? So it's kind of reminding as well. It's so nice to share all this, but look to yourself too, and how do you feel after a good night's sleep?
Right.
But you're gonna feel much better. And the other going back to journey of intrinsic health and kind of how we looked at sleep and that it was all a part of rest. We talked a lot about our eating patterns and how they are contributing to our body's ability to rest. And I would definitely encourage you to go back and listen to our fasting episode, because that in and of its sense of, whether you do intermittent fasting where it's, a certain amount of hours within a day that you're not eating, or you're taking on a longer fast, that is allowing your body to have that rest. But you can also look at it in the context of, as you set yourself up for good digestion and that your body is able to get into that state, then as you go to sleep every single night, you're more able to have that happen to where you're putting yourself in that state of regeneration and repair. So it makes sense that if you're waking up and grabbing like some sugar-filled donut, you're right there. We don't think of it in the context of sleep, but you're then more likely to reach for the caffeine and all of the different stimulants and sugar throughout the day. And you're stimulating, and you're not able to get your body into that state of rest that you are. So I think it's like important to reframe sleep in that way too, to really look at it as a link to eating. Plus, when you're tired, it's a vicious cycle, right? When you're tired, what do you reach for? Sugar,
right?
Because that's where you're going to get that quick energy hit. So it's also related.
Yeah, I notice it personally. Like I notice these things personally. If I get tired towards the end of the day, for me, I will reach for something, and then as I reach for something, I wait, and we teach our kids the same thing. Is we teach them that, are you hungry or are you tired? Which one is it? And with children, you can see their behavior, and hopefully your child by now. It's like, okay, he or she are definitely tired. right? They had a long day or they had some sort of an activity. So that differentiation can really help.
Yeah, definitely. It's you going back to like the parenting too. It's like when they're irritable, and it's really asking what is the deeper need here and making sense. And yeah, I think, and we this will be a good segue into kind of talking about all of the things that we do to inhibit sleep and rest, but talking especially about children when they are on screens all day as well. Or, I mean, I don't want to, even if it's an hour. So you have to think of that too as being, something that is disrupting their sleep patterns. So, it's important that we're setting ourselves up for sleep, but also I think there's a lot of behavior and things that we're doing within our children that's kind of normalized that is setting them up for bad sleep in a sense.
Yeah. And that caffeine that we talked about it when we met for this episode, most people say that coffee doesn't bother them, but it does bother you. And in fact, most of the clients that I help that have anxiety are all on coffee, and more than one. So this is your sympathetic nervous system is on overdrive, and coffee can affect you up to 36 hours. And coffee is not just in your coffee cup in the morning, but it's also in green tea, decaffeinated drinks, ice cream, chocolate, energy drinks. So we need to think about getting from our sympathetic nervous system to our parasympathetic nervous system and just bring it down. So for those of us, I mean, I quit coffee after I finished nursing my kids, and I really relied heavily on it because, like I said, I was severely sleep deprived. I couldn't even keep my eyes open when I was, with a baby. So luckily I had my partner with me to help me, but it was really hard. And so it was coffee after coffee after coffee after coffee. And after I stopped nursing them, I said, okay, I need to clean my body. I started getting really jittery. I started getting really anxious, and I quit coffee. But for those of you that still drink coffee, stick to the 1 cup if you don't see any negative connotation, and do, the 1.5 if you can live without it. And that's always something that I say. If it has a hold on you, you are addicted.
Yeah.
And it's a stimulant. You are addicted. Just like food, just like sugar, just like processed food, just like the gym. If you cannot do a day or two without it, you are addicted. So that's something to say. Do you want that stimulant that, is full of mold and whatever else in it? Do you want that to have a hold on you? So just decrease it in half and see how you feel. You may be surprising yourself and have a really, really good rest and sleep.
Yeah. As someone who loves coffee, and I have such a love-hate relationship with coffee because I love it so much. I miss it like when I don't have it. However, I will say that I do think that, and I've done this, I would be lying to myself if I said that it doesn't affect me at all. Like as I sleep, I could probably sleep even better than I do. However, I'm very, very mindful to keep it in check, and that, 1 cup a day, I will not drink it after 9 or 10 o'clock. Like I was getting in a habit where I would kind of be drinking it almost until lunchtime. So I would just say, if you do have coffee, just trying to be honest with yourself and really evaluate your relationship. And I also try once a quarter. I actually just gave it up a few weeks ago for a week. And I got a headache, but to me, that shows that my body was way too dependent on it. So, my goal is to where if I need to skip a day, it shouldn't bother me if I do.
Yeah.
So I think it's so important to keep in check.
I also had severe headaches for 2 days. And I was like, okay, that's just my body cleansing itself. I gotta ride the wave. And for me, what works the best instead of coffee, while we're on the topic, for those who wonder, for me, it's chicory. So chicory is, it has a lot of vitamins, lots of fiber, B12. It's a root vegetable, and they grind it into powder. You can find chicory coffee on, everywhere online. So that worked for me. I just kind of I like exotic spices. So for me, I do chicory. with some cardamom, and I put it in a little espresso thing on the stove. Makes me feel fancy, and I love Italy. Sounds like I do that. And then I put a little bit of stevia. Stevia doesn't affect me personally. Some people don't like the taste. You have to go brand by brand and see what works for you. And a little bit of almond milk. So that's how I drink mine. And I really don't need more than one. But it took me a while. For my husband, who wanted to get off the caffeine, he does matcha. And
Yeah.
matcha is great on many aspects, but it is still loaded with caffeine. So you're not really solving the issue. But yeah, he can do matcha all day, but I'd rather him do that than getting the acidity that is added to the consumption of caffeine.
Yeah. And the other thing is that it's so dehydrating.
It is
So
dehydrating. Yeah.
if you are, having coffee, you need to be even more, taking into account that you want to keep your hydration as I'm taking a sip of my water.
As I take a sip of my chicory.
Yeah. Yeah, but I will say I do like there's like mushroom coffees, mud water I've had before. And they are all really good. I will like rotate them in and out. I will say for me, a coffee lover.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard addiction. It's hard.
And it's an emotional. It
Yes.
definitely is an emotional thing for me, and that's why I even try. Like I think it's about the ceremony, like you were saying, the espresso, container, and making it like I think that if trying the alternatives like make it special as well, because there is an aspect of that too. But
And
yeah.
I will share that I have a client, and she's fantastic. And I asked her about her routine. Her anxiety level was off the roof. I asked her about her eating habits. She said, well, I start my morning with 3 cups of coffee. And I said, okay, how long has this been going on? We tracked it back to, it was going on since she lost her mom a few years ago. And so immediately something clicked. It's like, okay, there's an emotional attachment to her mom. And I said, well, what comes to you when you say that? Because she stopped herself. She paused for a second and she said, oh, I don't even think I like coffee. I just miss my mom. And so we worked on a different direction, right? We worked on the emotional aspect of, can she remember her mom in a way that is not going to hurt her? Because it obviously hurting her physically with cortisol level and all that stress. She said, yes, I can find something else. So we gave it a week. We did like transformation in action, and she found something that she can connect to her mom through that. The following week, she came back. She's like, you know what? I quit coffee. It wasn't as hard as I thought. As soon as I found the root cause of why I was drinking coffee in the first place, I said, congratulations.
That's such a perfect testimony to like the beauty of health coaching, in that we oftentimes can't make the link ourselves all the time of when we're grabbing for things, that deeper why. But if we have somebody to reflect back to us, we can really find those deeper things. But
yeah, we are creatures of habit, just like, having alcohol or having red wine. And people are like, yeah, that's how I mellow down. That's how I relax. But it's actually a really powerful suppressor for the REM sleep. So you may think this is helping me to calm down, but it's a disruptor of sleep, even if you don't realize that.
Yeah. Oh, the wine thing is, if I have even a glass of wine, even a few hours before bedtime, I'm usually waking up around like 2 or 3 in the morning. And then I kick myself because I'm like, why did I do it? So it is that alcohol, it's another thing, like the caffeine and the alcohol, like, I don't want to be like, the fun police, but you do have to recognize how much these things can impact your sleep. So, yeah. And even if you don't think they are, there's so many studies that show, even if you're not waking up at night with alcohol, the quality of sleep that you're getting is not the same.
Exactly. And sometimes we bring behavior from our 20s. So whoever's in their 20, like partying all night, alcohol, caffeine in the morning, college, party. Your body may be able to handle it in your 20s, but not so much anymore. I have some 20-year-old with severe chronic illnesses that are rising. But if you're in your 20, your body may be able to handle it better. But once you go to your 30s, and maybe your 40s, you'll see that you don't recover as well. So let's put a pause on the habits that we brought in from our past, and let's just ask ourselves, is it working for me in this season of my life? Is it or isn't it? And then instead of creating a void, create a different routine, because we're creatures of habit. Create a better routine, experiment with it, trial and error, see how it works for you. It's not the end of the world if you don't like the chicory or you don't like the matcha, whatever it is. Try it, make it fun, make it a game.
Yeah. I think that's such an important point, that like, it's like it, whenever we're trying to do a different behavior or eliminate a behavior, it's so important to think, what can I do instead? Like, what can my routine be instead? So, and speaking on habits, another habit that is, very common in today's world is the smartphones, just scrolling them, especially before bed, which I've certainly been guilty of doing. And that is so disruptive to your sleep, because the blue light from those devices is interacting with your melatonin and your natural sleep hormones that are getting you ready to go to bed. So
yeah. And even with the EMF glasses, there's been a lot of studies actually, even with the EMF glasses that I have my children wear and I wear as well, it's the length of you being exposed to it. So this may be blocking some of the blue light, but it's the length that you're staring into a device that really affects your sleep. It affects your mood. I know with our middle child, oh my gosh. So they have laptops in schools. They got Chromebooks in schools. And our older son had no issue with it. But my middle child started coming home in tears. She's like, Mommy, my eyes are really hurting. Really, really hurting. Now, I knew they're using Chromebooks, so I gave her EMF blockers glasses. You can get it on Amazon. And well, first she didn't want to wear them. She's like, I look weird. Everybody's asking me why I wear glasses. I don't know what to tell them. I said, well, just tell them you're really smart and you're ahead of the game. So mind your own business. She's in first grade. But she didn't like that answer. And she said, I don't want to look weird. I want to be like everyone else. I said, but your eyes are hurting. And so I had to meet with the principal, and then I had to meet with the teacher just to realize, and I was in her class, that not only do they use Chromebooks, but the teacher is now speaking in front of a screen, a huge screen that projects everything that she can basically do without her using a screen. And so that interaction with that light, almost the whole time that they're in school, 8 to 1 o'clock, obviously. So her eyes are most sensitive. So I had to solve this issue. I told the teacher, this is not okay. And her response was, this is the way the world is going now. I said, this is the way the world is going. These are 6-year-old kids. So how about you go to the hospital and you're just going to gift a newborn with a laptop, because this is the way the world is going now. So obviously I got nowhere with the teacher, but I got somewhere with the principal, luckily. And we took out the Chromebook. And so we had her do everything the kids are doing in class on the Chromebook, just pen and paper. And you know what? She went back to her normal, beautiful self. No more eyes tearing, no more headaches. That's it. That was the solution.
Wow. Yeah. It's always shocking to me, because my daughter is not yet, in school. She's just in preschool where they're still playing. But it's, again, we've like normalized these things that are not normal. And I think it's imperative that we do speak out, because at the very least, if they're going to be on their Chromebooks, like maybe we should at least educate on, they should all be wearing blue light glasses,
right?
If they are going to do that.
And I sent the principal a link. I said, if you're gonna gift the students with Chromebook, make sure you gift them with the protection that's needed.
Yeah, because for adults, like we didn't grow up in a time where we were sitting with screens all day long, so it's affecting us now, and that we are, and we've got and there's things we can do about it. But now you've got these kids that from a very, very young age, that's all they know. And yeah, it's so important that we find those ways that we can at least make it a little bit safer, if it's going to be quote unquote the norm of how we do things.
Yeah. And and for the parents that come with a phone or a tablet for their kids to entertain themselves at a restaurant, we need to do better. Okay, we need to do better. It's okay if your kid can't stay still. This is something that we need to assist the kid at home so that he'll or she will be prepped to be in a restaurant scenario. But seeing kids on their phones or tablets while we're at a restaurant, you are a catalyst to his health being deteriorating over years. You are establishing the patterns that will not help the kid at all. So limit it. If your kid is not going to sit still, limit it. Say, okay, when we come to the restaurant, 10 minutes you can be on the tablet. And also for the EMF factor, right? For the blue light, limit it and then say, okay, let's engage in conversation. So you are the parent, you are the one to put healthy boundaries for your children. So don't ignore parenthood because right now it's freaking easy. It will not be easy when the kid grows up and have, ADHD and all those attention deficit disorders because of how the habits that we help instill in the kid.
Yeah. Dr. Gabor Mate speaks beautifully to a lot of these things. And his book, which I have not read in its entirety, but I've listened to a lot of podcasts that he's had about the book, and it's on my list. But he speaks to the screen time, that there is absolutely no study that shows any sort of net benefit to any amount of screen time. There is no, so, it's not, everyone has to go for themselves. Like there are times where, it might be necessary, but it's asking yourself that question, like, is this, again, just because it's normal, just because you see it all the time, kids, using their screens in restaurants, a way to fight boredom. Boredom is good for children. It allows them to engage the creative part of their brain. And when they're sitting in front of a screen, none of that is getting engaged. So
and we're interfering with melatonin and cortisol in the child as well.
Right, exactly. And then it's no wonder of why they can't pay attention, in class when they're sleep deprived. And so it's just remembering things from like looking at that holistic angle.
And I know that some families are all about no screens at all. So we are not that family. I mean, if it was up to me, we would not have a TV in the house. We will not have anything, but it's not up to me. I have a partner. And so this is the yin and yang part of us. So we do have that, but we have established okay, you got 20 minutes. You got 20 minutes to play video game. You got 20 minutes on the iPad. And I'm like, the police officer in the house. Okay, it's been 20 minutes, honey. Go outside. The son is waiting for you to play with it. Go outside. I was like, kids do not need to be zombies. Go outside. Enjoy it. Go play with each other.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. We use screens. Well, I would say my mother-in-law gave us an iPad and I use it like, I had to take her to an appointment with me and I gave her the iPad. I was like, this is not an emergency situation, but it's about the intention that you're coming with and just continuing to keep yourself in check with your child. Like, am I overdoing
it
this?
Can be a great babysitter, but like you said, it's the intention, like, and you putting the boundaries, like how long, how often use it, or what.
But there's but it is good to know that there's been no study that shows that there's a net benefit to using this technology. Like, sure, I know there's education devices, I know but like that's engaging your mind, a child's mind, with math, with actually having things to touch and feel. Is even more beneficial. And there's studies to show it. So again, it's not saying that you should just for sure do zero, but it's, if you're trying to kind of justify yourself that it's a benefit, it's not. I get that it's convenient and that it's needed, but sometimes, I think that's important to know. So, yes. So on the realm of sleep, that was a little bit of diversion, but I think it's important that we talked about that. And like, and it's all connected. And so you're going to be affecting sleep. But the other thing, well, I shouldn't say the other thing. I think that like there's, we've talked a lot about like the things that we shouldn't be doing, but like there are other things that we could be doing to even help more get us into a deeper sleep. And one of those is taking magnesium before bed. There's a lot of things on the market. I think some are better than others. But even just a simple, like if you're a bath person, putting Epsom salts in your bath, you're going to get those benefits of absorbing the magnesium, and it really helps you sleep. And then a natural melatonin as well
Yeah.
will help
And
with that.
I have magnesium flakes that I put in the bath of the kids, or I put it in a foot bath. So if the kids don't want to take a bath, I just put a little bucket with a little magnesium. And also the room needs to be cool enough so it can't be like, super hot. So they say that 62 to 65 degrees is recommended for sleep time. And that relaxes them. I put a little bit of lavender sometimes in their bath as well, or at the edges of the sheet or the pillow. So just create that conducive environment for them to sleep well.
Yeah, exactly. Dark as you can get it. And yeah, no artificial light. That's another
Yeah.
thing, just trying not to have a lot of like the overhead lighting right before bed.
Yeah.
It goes beyond screens, but all of our lighting now is the LED. So that's a different type of light that's going to disrupt your hormones as well.
Yep.
So yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So let's talk about the benefits of sleep.
Yes. Yeah, I know we talked about all these terrible things when you don't sleep, but let's flip it around. Be a little more positive. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've already spoken about like how when you don't sleep that it lacks your body's defense, but it like when you look on the flip side of that, the more that you can not just increase the amount of sleep, but to really put yourself in a state where you're getting the good quality sleep, you are allowing your body to, go through its process every night where it's getting rid of the toxins, getting rid of the waste. We didn't mention this, but another, thing that does not help with sleep is eating a heavy meal at night, which it makes sense when you look at the benefits of sleep. Like if your body's focused on digesting your last huge meal that you've just had, then it's not able to focus on cleaning out kind of all of the other deep gunk that it has. It's focused on that very last thing. So being able to, finish your meal by, I know this can sometimes be hard. Actually, and you said even deeper than that. I think like by like a couple hours before bed, you should stop eating.
Yeah. And this is where individuality comes to play. You need to know your metabolism efficiency. So this is not a big word. It just means how well your body metabolized what you just ate. For me, if I stop eating 2 hours before I go to bed, I'm still digesting because it's a little sluggish for me. But I noticed that I need to cut my dinner 4 hours before I go to bed, and then I wake up. The way that I know that I don't sleep with a stomach ache, and I was able to have a bowel movement before I sleep, and this is how I know it has been digested and my body's ready for rest. If I wake up and the first thing I need to do is go to the bathroom, I know this is the leftover that my body hasn't been able to digest. According to Fast Like a Girl with Dr. Mindy Pelz, she talks about the correlation of eating your dinner and melatonin. She said, in order for the melatonin to kick in, you have to finish eating your dinner 2 hours before the sun sets. So obviously in the winter is going to be a lot earlier, probably around 3, and the summer probably around 5. So just entertain yourselves with other things, right? Grab there's dietitians out there that say 2 hands on your wheel. So grab a delicious tea, non-caffeinated tea, play with your kids, do some sort of for me, I always study around these times, so I try to occupy myself. But it has a direct correlation to your sleep.
Yeah, and if that sounds crazy to you, you could also even look at it as just like maybe switch your biggest meal to lunch, to where if you can't maybe eat a dinner especially in the winter at like 3 o'clock, that at least you're not eating this heavy, huge meal, kind of reframing it to just eating like something small. So,
Exactly.
and I think like when you think about it too, like when you eat a big meal, you don't sleep as well.
Yeah.
Like when a heavy, rich meal, it's interfering with it. Yeah. So I know we kind of again diverge into the not benefits, but I think that I love like when we reference other episodes, but again, the dreams episode that we talked about, how important dreaming is to brain regeneration, and that we even went into the spiritual aspects of dreaming and how that is like a doorway to your subconscious, where your conscious mind and your subconscious mind can talk with each other. So again, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual, but being able to allow your body to get in those deep sleep states where you're dreaming and can remember those dreams, is allowing yourself to kind of get those deeper messages from your subconscious.
Right. And it also helps. Yeah. And it also improves your memory. Sleeping well improves your memory because it removes the clutter from the brain that we really don't need. And there is a doctor by the name Matthew Walker, and he said that following a night of sleep, you gain access to memories you could not retrieve before sleep. And like you said, the improvement of creativity and getting messages from the upper realm, these are all part of getting a good night's sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it all makes sense. And then like I think that actually I'm like losing my train of thought. Sorry.
Yeah. And those traumatic events that we talked about. Yeah.
Yeah. That if you're not processing through your emotions, like sometimes it has to happen on the subconscious level, and your emotional health is going to be boosted when you can really not just like like I love how Heather in the dreams episode talked about, like, if you go with the intention at night that you want to remember your dreams and you want to allow that to kind of communicate with you, then you're going to get that. So it's the same for with when you're going to sleep. Like, I think even that would be a beautiful routine, and talking about like the ways to kind of but that it's so important to have like a sleep routine, but to find something that's going to connect you in to where you're coming with the intention of having like the best sleep. I mean, it sounds so silly in a sense, but it's so important to to know you're doing everything in a good night's sleep.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit of what happens when we sleep briefly.
Yeah.
So one of the things that happens is we all know we have circadian rhythm, and it runs on like almost like a 24-hour cycle. So it activates those mechanisms during the day that work to keep us awake, and it cycles down those same mechanisms during the night so that we can go to sleep. And also we talked about the melatonin that is being released in the evening, that calm hormone. It regulates the timing of when sleep happens. And during sleep, we have different receptors in the brain that allow us to start the day without needing to sleep further. So when our circadian rhythm, melatonin, and adenosine work together to get us to sleep, then we drift off to that unconsciously experience that we call as the REM sleep and the non-REM or NREM sleep. So these are all just technicalities about when you sleep. It allows you to lower your blood pressure. Everything just relaxes. Our nervous system is in a relaxed state, which we call parasympathetic. Yeah. And then we have cycles of about 90 minutes that we go back and forth between these types of sleep all night. And that's it. Like our brain benefits, our body benefits at different times of the night. So what will be some of the tips for good night's sleep?
Um, I like going back to the bedtime routine and like really finding, well, one, I mean, establishing that time that you wake up and go to bed and trying to keep that as consistent as possible is super important. But with that too, just where can you start your routine? And I know time can be a little bit tough, but can you reframe it to where, you're putting yourself in a place where you're getting better quality sleep. So it's that important to give yourself that half an hour, maybe even hour, maybe even things that you can do 2 hours before to set yourself up for sleep, whether it's getting a glass of tea, having that bath, like anything like that is going to put you in a positive sleep state. Yeah. Yeah. What else would you
We have
want to know
the
that
exercise thing. So for me, I know that
Yes.
if I exercise too close to bedtime, and for me, too close sometimes mean 4 o'clock, that's enough to not allow me
Mm-hmm.
to unwind early enough for my bedtime. So when you do exercise, make sure you don't exercise too close to bedtime because your adrenaline is still going to kick in, which won't allow the melatonin to be a part of your rejuvenation.
Yeah. And that so goes back to like bio individuality too. Like find what for you, like
Right.
that but yeah, but trying to go to bed right after you've had a hard workout is and I know people that do that, like that will work out at 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, whoa.
Wow.
So yeah, just be mindful of that. And then also of course the caffeine and the alcohol, remembering that again, bio individuality, that doesn't even mean necessarily that you're having a glass of coffee right before bed. Like you could maybe be having it at noon and it's still messing with your sleep, or even in the morning, it can mess with your sleep at night. So just being mindful of the alcohol and caffeine that you're taking in and understanding how it's affecting your sleep.
Yeah. And also don't sleep with your phone. So don't
Yes.
sleep with your phone next to your head. You don't want it anywhere near your head. Even when we have these EMF blockers, I forgot the name of the company, Safe Sleep. So we use Safe Sleep. I know there's a bunch of companies. Um, so all our phones and all our devices are locked into this safe sleep thing. But even then, you don't want to put it near your head. So put it somewhere remote, or if you absolutely have to sleep with your phone, maybe you can put it in a drawer far from your head.
Yeah. Yeah. I would try like to at least put it, if it's got to be in the room, like put it somewhere on the other side of the room on your dresser.
Yeah.
Not right by your head. Yeah, for sure. Um, and then the heavy meals too, remembering, you know, try to get all of your eating done a couple hours before is usually kind of the standard of what you want to do. No heavy meals. Um, and just going back to the devices, and if you're scrolling on the phone, maybe try like reading in an actual book, not an electronic device, but getting out a book and reading. That's going back to what will put you in that state. Maybe listening to music, doing some relaxing yoga poses, anything like that is going to help to put your body in that state.
Something that I noticed, I lived in Europe for a little while, and there are a lot of tea rooms over there, and it's magical and it's needed
Mm-hmm.
because it can get cold. But I noticed that here, when we go out, it's always let's go out for dinner. I don't like going out for dinners. I don't
Yeah.
like it. I feel so horrible after. So I enjoy the company of amazing people. I eat at a time that I'm is not conducive to me feeling at my best or looking at my best. And so whoever we go out with, I always try to convince them to have dinner at 3. And they're like, no, this is not.
Dinner is not 3. I will
But then
say
I feel
even,
like crap after,
oh
crap the
yeah,
next morning. Like,
yeah. Well, with before having my little girl, like it was normal for me to go out to dinner 7:30, 8 o'clock. And now that we don't get a lot of babysitters, so we'll just take her out with us. But like we go at 5 and I love it. I'm like, I would much rather have a dinner at 5 o'clock than try to wait until 7 and eat. So yeah, maybe they'll compromise with you and do the 5 o'clock dinner.
I can do 5 as long as we are seated and eating by 5.
At 5,
let's meet at 5,
Oh, speak of the devil.
So yeah.
And then another thing that we didn't really touch on was just how we're in like artificial light all day long. So the more that you can get out and like get natural light exposure for at least 30 minutes a day, and waking up with the sun. I've even heard like gazing in the sun, where it's not staring directly in it, but it's when the sun's just rising, you're not really staring in it anyways, but that helps to balance your circadian rhythm, I guess is the right thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And there's some books, tools, and supplements out there that we mentioned throughout the episode, but one book that I really like is called Why We Sleep. It's by Matthew Walker. Why We Sleep: Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams. Another thing we touched on was the magnesium. Lemon balm is another really good one. It's not just a pathogen cleanser. It's an herb. You can get it as tea. Melissa officinada is another name for it. I drink it in the morning. It's like a magnesium to me, and you can drink it at night. Whatever you feel is a time of the day that you need to relax your nervous system. Epsom salt we mentioned, magnesium flakes, melatonin. My husband has Aura Ring. I didn't get into that. I don't have an Aura Ring.
Yeah, I will say the one thing that I would be very interested in with getting the Aura Ring is my sleep, and because I think it would allow even a deeper level. So if you have one, I mean, start. I think it's easier to link like, okay, what did I do? Like my sleep is this. What did I do the day before? To either make it that positive or make it that negative, and really, really kind of fine tuning what allows you to get a good night's sleep. I think that like that is a powerful thing. But yeah, 100%. I don't have one, but if I was going to get one, that would be the main data, is the sleep data.
Yeah, I got it for my husband for his birthday, and he loves it. Yeah.
Yeah. You said, well, I've heard too, maybe it was you that mentioned that or it was something like that you can even tell that a sickness is coming on. Like in that you're,
They detected
which I think that's
COVID with
really
him.
cool too. Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there are benefits. I think you just have to be careful with any of those devices, like to not let it take you out of your intuition.
Yeah, that's an important point, because sometimes like I'll find him saying, oh, my sleep score is 85. And then he compares it with another buddy of his. Oh, his sleep score is 95. Where is the 10th? And it's competitive athletics stuff.
Yes, exactly.
No, but how do you feel? Back to how do you feel? You feel rested? You feel angry? You feel anxious? How do you feel? Always go back to yourself. Like you said, your intuition. Don't let it take you out of you being in the driver's seat, not this equipment and device.
Yeah. You let it help you, not let it run you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but I think just overall, like just kind of to wrap up like of this episode, and what I think, going through all of this just shows, it's like in some ways it's like going back to the basics, and like it's things that we all in some sense know, but yet it's harder to put it in practice, or we don't always connect the dots as to why we're not getting a good night's sleep or why we don't feel rested. So really kind of presenting it in that full picture and recognizing that how important it is, I think is key.
Yeah. All right. So that was fun. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Brooke.
Yes. Thank you, Noah.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.